Adam, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me here. I'm excited.
I'm a super fan. I'm incredibly super fan. So this is why in this interview, I'm not going to ask the questions that you've already kind of answered before or that you've already kind of done in your building in public kind of sessions. So I'm just gonna get into this because these things are like super interesting to me, and I kind of geek out on them a bit. And I just want to, I'm really interested to kind of pick your mind and see if I got some of those things right in terms of the philosophy and the strategy and the way you kind of manage things. So I want to start off with, you talk a lot about like basically knowing how to move the needle, and when you were with I believe it was maybe it was with retention that the email software where basically you guys were basically hanging on 3 million ARR for a while, and it was kind of difficult, and you tried so many different things, and then you found out basically the website visitors thing that kind of shifted things.
Yep.
I'm interested in like, because everyone's talking about like how are you going to move the needle, focus only on the Pareto principle, only on things that move the needle, but sometimes you don't know what moves the needle, right? It's like, how do you know what moves the needle? Do you have kind of like a formula?
So this is what I believe, and I learned it through that experience. Uh, you know, uh, I believe that the best way something is going to move the needle, the single best way is if you can get people to pay for something that is not there yet,
Hmm.
right? That's the single best way. I understand that they're like we kind of couldn't do that with our B2B. I tried to get people to pay $500 a month based upon like words we were saying, and like they wouldn't. But like my story about this is I'm friends with the guys who started BarkBox, which is like now a publicly traded company, and they send dog toys in the mail once a month. So this guy Matt Meeker had a Great Dane, and he lived in Manhattan. All pet stores in Manhattan are small, rent's expensive. They only had tiny toys because that's like what the retail model was. And he's like, it sucks that I can't get toys that my Great Dane won't mutilate without like going to some catalog. This is 2012, right? Going to some catalog like order them. So what he did was on his iPhone, he did not even build a website. He had a Photoshop drawing of a website, and he went around Washington Square Dog Park one weekend, showed people the Photoshop document, had a square plug into his phone, and he charged their cards for $30 a month, 50 people without even building a fucking website. Right.
Hmm.
So like that just is a publicly traded company. Like I've got more stories like that, but like that is the most amazing signal back to you of what's going to move the needle there could possibly be. So that's number one. If you can show up somewhere and the need is so dire that you're like, here's a napkin drawing of what I'm building. Will you help me, sort of crowdfund this, right? Like,
Hmm.
it's going to be $500 a month. Will you pay $50 for the first year, right? Like, will you pay one, you know what I mean? Like any sort of like someone actually lets you charge their card
Hmm.
is an unbelievably powerful indicator, especially if you just walked up this person cold and they're not just trying to make you feel good. That's an
Hmm.
unbelievably powerful indicator of this thing, product market fit. And when we're talking about things that move the needle in startups, that's what I think it is. I have this saying, it's like with strong enough product market fit, everything you do will work.
Hmm.
Without it, nothing you do works. The end. Right? So it's like this journey to find product market fit is to me, it is an unbelievably manual process that is having conversations with people and trying to assess their level of enthusiasm. So like if you cannot get them to buy, I would be worried, but like, again, RB2B, I couldn't get people to buy it based upon what I was showing them. It's still sort of working right now, sort of, but like I think it's like working, it's obviously working better than it otherwise would because of how prolific the marketing is, like with my founder brand. But like, look, the next thing, and this is like what You told the story pretty accurately. It's like we were stuck for 3 years at 3 million ARR with a newsletter app like MailChimp. MailChimp was free, ours was not. Like MailChimp was way ahead of us. We didn't have an automation builder. We didn't have anything, right? And we were stuck at 3 million ARR because the product wasn't good enough. And um, at a trade show, we tried to like launch a new version of MailChimp that was above MailChimp that I spent a year building. For some reason, we tried to like build, so we'd be managing two, it sounds crazy to me now, like with the level of experience I am, but we'd be managing two different websites that did the same thing, except like one was kind of built from scratch for power users with big lists or whatever. And walked around the trade show, no one cared. I had heard, but I did not even know how to do it. And this is an important point. I had no idea how to execute this technically. I had heard that it was possible to get an email address for someone who was visiting a website and didn't fill out a form. Now, in 2018, to these people, that was like a crazy idea. It seemed illegal. Like now we kind of made it to where it's mainstream-ish, right? But like it was a crazy idea. And like it went from talking to people about this email app that was above MailChimp that they all had, unbeknownst to me, like 10 of the people were already filling this void. When their eyes glazed over, which is a very good indication that what you're building is not going to work, right? If people are like trying to figure out a way to get out of the conversation with you, that's not a good sign. But I would say that magic line. I'd be like, by the way, like, what if I could get you email addresses of people that didn't fill out a form on your website? Boom. Like eyes lit up. Like, where do I buy that? Like, how do I get it? Is it around? I'm like, I'm still building it. Give me your business card. You'll be the first one I reach out to. I probably could have gotten people to buy it that day. So the first thing is do what the BarkBox guys did. Um, the second thing is just work on this magic, this elevator pitch, right? That's another way, like
Mhm.
sizzling one-liner to describe what you are doing to this target market. If the signal that comes back to you as you're sending that signal out, and there's no way to automate this, right? You're not going to be able to do it using instantly over cold email. You're not like, it's just, you got to figure out how to talk to people who are in your ideal customer profile. And then you have to deliver this one-line pitch and you have to look at their face and see
Hmm.
what happens, because they're going to bullshit you. They're going to say it's a great idea. They're going to try to get you off the phone, right? You'll
Right.
know if people care by the way that their face looks and the questions that they ask you afterwards, right?
Hmm.
And that is the only way, in my mind, that you can. So that's the only way to prioritize, in my opinion. That's how you figure out what will move the needle and not. So like, again, how am I doing it right now? Like this second, right? Like there's this, I was totally, another thing that I say over and over again is like, whatever you think that your startup is when you start it, what it is when it
Hmm.
actually starts really moving is something totally different. It's
Right.
been every case in my startups. Um, so what I thought RB2B was I thought it was a new way to prospect. I was like, you need to do marketing motion. You need to drive people back to your site. You need to get these leads and you need to target those leads. And it's this inbound lead outbound motion. I do not believe that anymore.
Hmm.
I don't believe that a website visitor who has not submitted their email address is actually a lead.
Right.
I believe that that is a signal. I believe that one way to use that signal is prospecting. But I believe that the far more valuable way, and I'm talking about a segment of users that's like kind of has a sales team, is mid-market, is like whatever, the far more valuable way is to use that signal to inch people who are already in your funnel down the funnel, right? It's not just like, oh, they hit your site for the first time, you should be prospecting that person and there's no other use for this. It's like 80% of the value is for sales teams working deals to know that someone they're talking to or someone from their company
Hmm.
is hitting the site, because that's incredibly valuable insight, right? And then what makes it even more valuable is if we can eliminate this. Well, what should I say to this person? Because like, it's not that they don't know and they're not smart enough. It's that it makes your fucking brain hurt to try to come up with like, oh God, like I've exchanged 3 emails. They're at this phase of my CRM. Like, what am I supposed to say to this person? Like, that is what LLMs today do. They look at all the information, they look at how you write, and they spit you out a perfect line. So how am I coming up with this hypothesis right now? Right. My co-founder of retention.com, Diana Ross, has been trying to use RB2B in our 22 million ARR B2B ecom SaaS for like 3 months.
Hmm.
Every salesperson gets a win a day. The amount of effort they have to expend to get a win a day is not an amount of effort that anyone else would spend if they didn't also own the company. You know what I mean? Like it's
Right.
just so like she is my guinea pig for this one. She's the one that I'm like getting the signal back from because no one else would even be willing to put this much effort in, right? Like we're so, and I believe it's not just our tool, all of the tools that provide this type of resolution, they're all selling them as leads. They're all saying that they're prospecting tools. None of them none of them have made it frictionless to be served the signal in a way that makes it super easy to digest and sort of close the gap of what do I do? So, um, we're developing this Chrome plugin to like serve the signal really elegantly and like seeing her enthusiasm as we show her iterations of it. And like I've built products with her before. So we know not to bullshit each other because like that
Hmm.
doesn't help anyone, right? Like it's just not to like try to, you know, the bar that she and I have collectively of like, I'm not looking at this as though I created it. I'm looking at this as though I am like the most critical person in the
Hmm.
entire world who's the fucking busiest and doesn't want to think and has, it's like, how do you stop that person and say you absolutely must have this product, right? And like, I'm not going to stop these back and forth conversations with her until our sales team, if I'm like, I'm turning this off, guys, you don't get it anymore. If they're like, fuck
Hmm.
you, we have to have it, right? Like, until that
Right.
point, we're not done,
Hmm.
because like with this one, especially like everybody understands that signals are valuable. Everybody understands that the website visitor is the most valuable signal. That's why they're buying this thing. Our churn rate's 10% per month because we have not made that signal easy to get into the right person's hands with the right way to action it in the product that we have built. So that's the gap I'm trying to close. And I'm doing it in an incredibly manual way. It happens to be with somebody who's like in a different product line in an organization, but it is the only way to do it. Like, I thought the ICP would be SDRs in the beginning. No longer. I think it's like AEs at mid-market companies. We got an AE team at a mid-market company. So like I'm talking to them every single day, incredibly manually, figuring out how, workflows, use cases, how they need to be, whatever. So that, look, the one word answer to that question is conversations.
Hmm.
Like that is the only, it's like talking to your ICP. As far as I know, it is the only way to build products. And the fundamental problem that happens is you don't, which I've made this mistake many times earlier in my career. You can get in a room, come up with these grand ideas, and then build something. Or even worse, you copy something that you think is working in the market. Like we have this competitor, Warmly. They copied Qualified because it appeared that Qualified was working well, but it's not. They raised $100 million and they got to 20 million ARR, right?
Right.
They copied Qualified, undercut them, and then added personal level identity. And like he's got 35 people and we've lapped him twice in the last 7 months, right? Like, because that's not good, right? It's not, they didn't do what you're supposed to do. What you need to do is you need to talk to people. They looked at something out there and said, that looks like it's working. So I'm going to
Hmm.
build that without talking to anybody. Right. And then this guy is making the horrible mistake of working in public. So he's highlighting the fact that we've lapped him twice. Right. I advocate anybody working in public unless you're getting your ass kicked by someone who is lapping you twice with 20% of the staff. Then you probably shouldn't.
Who's also working in public.
Yeah, exactly. Then you probably shouldn't. If it highlights the horrible inadequacy in the delivery of your solution, I wouldn't work in public. Everybody else should. So anyway, again, it just comes back to like this startup thing, this 0 to 1 game. And like, even though we're RB2B is at like 3.7 million ARR, whatever, it's like this version of it is 0 to 1. It's at zero. Like we do
Hmm.
not have a product that is usable for who I perceive as our ICP buyer persona 1 year from now, which is a growth stage SaaS with a sales team. The product's great if you have 2 people on your team and you get 5 visitors a day and you're not ever going to pay for it and you're just voyeurism. Great for them. It's also great for enterprise companies who have audience marketing, ABM teams, and growth teams. They just take the data from a webhook and they have 5 other feeds and they know exactly what to do. In the middle, it is unusable and we don't even have a solution for them yet.
Hmm.
So I'm doing what I have learned to do. I am just talking, and like I'm coming up with product hypotheses. I'm figuring out what we can build and like what the build time is. I'm like serving back prototypes over to them and being like, if I showed you this, would that be valuable? And this is the dance that you have to get people to be willing to play with you
Hmm.
to get 0 to 1. And that dance starts 100% of the time with this one line description of the problem you are solving in their face,
Hmm.
right? So it's their face first, and then it's their willingness to dance with you in this game of like, okay, so you want this. Like, what if I gave you this?
Hmm.
Right? You know? Um, yeah, man, that's my answer.
Yeah, it's a really good answer, and it's quite interesting because you only talked about product now. You only talked about product market fit. You only
It's
talked about
everything, bro.
basically, it's everything product. And it's interesting that you're saying this. Why is it interesting that you're saying this? Is because I'm sure people perceive you as a marketing guy
Yeah.
because of like the founder brand that you've built and the continuous growth of your marketing distribution channels. And it leads me to ask the following question is, okay, let's say you found the ideal product market fit, if it exists, or if and if there's, you're always trying to optimize the product market fit, but then let's say there's a competitor coming in, right, and they're doing the exact same product, they're also talking to customers, etc. What's the next play? The marketing domination, basically building that brand? Because
Yeah.
you
So,
didn't mention
so
it for 1 single second in the previous
yeah,
10 minutes.
because in the beginning, it's not important. And
Hmm.
this is like another thing that like, if you ask me what the biggest mistake that all 0 to 1 founders make, me included, it is trying to do growth hacking stuff
Hmm.
before you have product market fit. Now, there's a distinction between building audience before you build a product and then trying to do growth hacking stuff when you have a product and don't have product market fit yet. I actually think that it's incredibly valuable to build audience and trust in it. I mean, I just saw it with our B2B. Like we built the audience first and then we launched the product into it. Like that. And this is a concept that has been around since Kevin Kelly's 1,000 True Fans. He envisioned it with like creative people, musicians or whatever. The way that it's manifested is through influencer marketing. But that is incredibly valuable, but that is very different than trying to pump the gas before people
Hmm.
want what you have. Building audience when you have nothing and pumping the gas before your product is ready, two very different things. So back to what I said before, if you have product market fit, everything you do will work. With RB2B in its current state, and like we have some competitors coming in, but like, and maybe it's losing a little bit of that heat, but still everything we do will work because it's
Hmm.
all so hot and new and like it does what it says it does. And like we have a churn problem because people don't know how to action it yet, but like everything we do works. Uh, I have been in situations where I didn't have product market fit, where no matter what I did, it wouldn't work. So like the best products, the product is banging and the marketing's banging. That's how stuff gets huge,
Right.
period. And it's like some people may not even recognize what's happening as marketing, but like marketing can be engineered into the product if it doesn't look like marketing, right?
Hmm.
Like if there's just virality like embedded in how it gets consumed. But like the combination of both is what makes stuff amazing. Like my founder brand, a lot of it is fueled by the prolific speed at which our B2B has grown and the adoption and like how quickly it became a household name or whatever. That just gives more credibility to every single thing that I'm saying.
Hmm.
If our B2B sucked, which is hard to imagine, but like if it was something totally different and I was just like, if I were like trying to peddle an undifferentiated CRM, let's say,
Hmm.
right? You should switch off HubSpot and use my undifferentiated CRM that does nothing different than HubSpot. It's just me that's backing it, right? Like, and that's why you should use it. My audience would not be growing as quickly.
Really? Do you
Yep.
really believe that? I'm not sure,
100%.
Yeah?
100%. 100%.
Hmm.
I
Because
think that through my audience, I can sell commodity products right now, but like something as sticky as a CRM and undifferentiated, dude, like part of the magic of my founder brand is the fact that I mean, the conception of the idea of our B2B publicly last September, 5 months of audience building and doing discovery calls with that audience, and then launching it and having it go how it did is a lot of the reason that my founder brand is growing as fast as it did, because startups look at that and they're like, holy shit,
hmm.
man. Like I've been working for 5 years and like, I'm only at 1.5 million. And this
Hmm.
guy, I watched him come up with the idea for this last October,
Live, yeah.
right?
Literally
Like,
live, yeah.
fuck, what if I could do that? You know what I mean? Like, um, so yeah, it's like a great product makes everything else work so much better,
Hmm.
you know? Um, yeah.
I
So
still
it's both. It's both. It's great product and
right.
great in like that. We can go into a conversation about like, yeah, like I think in SaaS, my product will stay ahead of other people's because of brand. Instantly is a weird thing. They have a similar identity tool now, and they have a really, really good brand in a very different way than I do. But like they are synonymous with inbox rotation.
Hmm.
But like that pulls in a certain type of buyer. You know, strategically, where I want to go is I want to sell to sales teams. The person buying instantly is not buying an identity tool to deploy it in their sales team. They're buying an inbox rotation tool and they're using the identity tool to pump more leads in their inbox rotation. That, you know what I mean? Like strategically, we're headed in very different directions, but ultimately it's like, it is SaaS is getting commoditized. I could build an inbox rotation thing if I want to. I don't want to go that direction because then I don't want to compete with them in that, right? I don't like that market, like a lot of reasons. But like, uh, my brand will certainly keep people using our B2B more than the next guy's thing that do what we do. If I can keep making this, if I can keep listening to users and building for this one very specific ICP that we have in mind and stay in front, like the signal space is the space I want to be in. Who is it? It's like common room, user gems, whatever. If you don't want to spend $50,000 without a trial, those are unusable products. The value they are running around touting is job change and website visitors of people in your ICP. That's all that they're selling right now. If I can deliver those two signals in 1 second for free to mid-market SaaS with the marketer only having to install in Pixel and the AEs only having to install, let's say, a plugin or something like that, Chrome plugin, that opens, you know what I mean? Like it's just a much bigger thing than I'm doing right now, right? And it's a step ahead of the guy who's copying it. Then we're going to have other people copying it. But like, if that ends up working, then it's like more credibility into the founder brand, which like then creates this like,
The chicken and egg effect.
virtuous cycle, but like, if the question is, how do you figure out what to prioritize? And we're talking about a 0 to 1 situation, it has nothing to do with marketing. It is
Hmm.
like, you need your product to be fucking awesome in order to be who you want to be as a founder, regardless of whether you want to be a founder brand, you want to like distribute it other ways or whatever. You can't do partnerships without a great product. You can't do UGC without a great product. You can't do without a great it's like, this is the underpinning fundamental belief of all of this. I believe that the world is set up in a way to, once you have significant word of mouth, you can accelerate it in a million different ways. There are endless ways to accelerate word of mouth. If you do not have word of mouth,
Hmm.
all of those ways that are available to people to accelerate word of mouth do not work for you. You know?
Yeah.
Because like I think there's this thing where like we're all overspending on all of these channels.
Instead
And the
of
only way the math works for anybody is like there's so much word of mouth that that's the only reason the channels are working.
hmm.
You know, and it looks like the channels are working, but they're really not. They're really not. If you turn them all off, you'd be growing slower, but you'd be spending no money,
So
you
it'll
know?
be the same. Yeah, it will. The profit will would look like the same kind of number.
Well, the profit would look through the roof, the overall business profit. The unit
Right.
economics would, so like this is how Get Emails was when we were 12 million ARR with 6 people. We had a you know a 90 times CAC LTV because we weren't doing any
Hmm.
marketing and we were just getting tons of customers. Then it's like, oh, we need to go after this massive Shopify Plus market. Hired everybody, put in this in-person motion. Like you have to do that. So like the word of mouth thing works when your market penetration is incredibly low. So our dynamic, low penetration, no competitors, incredible word of mouth because it was so valuable, right?
Hmm.
Fast forward a year, we overestimated the size of the market. Awareness was 100%. Everybody knew what we did. Half the people had tried it already. Half
Hmm.
of them had tried insurance. And the only way to get the other half was to literally ABM them in person. So it's like find someone that knows them to get them to a Taylor Swift concert, to like meet Diana and like get on a demo, right? Obviously, that's going to be much more expensive
Yeah.
than the word of mouth thing. But the word of mouth thing stops working because certain people are not, you know, it's just like at some point to maximize market penetration, you just have to do that, right? And even that won't work. The only reason those people are coming to the event is because like they've heard of you and they've heard of people's success stories and stuff like that. You know,
Right.
no,
And if you have
very few.
50% churn, then it's
Yeah,
difficult.
yeah, it's a huge problem. So like, so yeah,
Hmm.
my, you know, a few things that I want to use this founder brand megaphone that I have to. So like a great product also solves the problem of needing external funding.
Hmm.
If your product is good enough, then in this initial stage of growth, it will grow on its own. You know, like you can do it with a lean team. And then like my thing is like your product should be good enough that it has an inbound motion, and inbound motion can get you to 10 million ARR with no funding. If you can get there, then you control the cards. Like your life is set.
Hmm.
There are 5 different ways you can go with the business and they're all wins, right? Like if you bootstrap 10 million ARR and it's profitable, when you go in to raise money to scale it, you got all the leverage, right? Like, or you just pay yourself $1 million or 2 million a year and keep growing it lean. Or you can go sell it to somebody, you know, on an EBITDA multiple and like you're rich, you know? So that all starts with a product, you know, and then the product's good enough that your marketing can speed it up, you know? But yeah, that's one thing. And the other thing is just hammering home this message that like you think that you don't have enough resources to grow. The problem is your product just isn't good enough and it
Hmm.
doesn't have enough word of mouth. How do you get word of mouth? It's not by an affiliate motion. It's actually
It's
making the
manual.
product good enough so people are like, you need to use RB2B. It's helping me in a way that I wasn't scratching this itch before. Right.
Right. That's amazing. Listen, I have another. I'm going to go through another set of. It's basically one question I'm really interested in. You talked about being a fan of like the base camp guys, right? You're a big fan of like they
Yep.
wrote the book Rework, right? That's the name of the book.
Rework, remote. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you run your productivity? Like do you have like a daily to-do list, or are you like a calendar guy? Like what's your daily routines? Like how do you know what to prioritize? I really want you to tell me it in a way that someone can actually like duplicate the way you work, in a sense.
Yeah. So like I'm a unique situation because you know, I own 2 companies. One of them is like the problems that retention.com has and what it requires from me in the role that I am, which is like just kind of like I'm not a GM, I'm like an owner of that, you know. Uh it is very different than the problems that RBDB has, and it has the problems of a 0 to 1 company right now.
Right.
I would say. And then I also have this other media brand, which is like a very different motion than most people have, that is working so well that I treat it that way. It's like a separate business from RBDB and retention.com. The way that I don't like interviewing people. I don't like being involved in the hiring process. I don't like HR shit. I don't like legal. I don't like finance. So we have people who handle that stuff. But the way that I manage my time in the situation that I'm in, and I haven't done this forever, it's just because of the situation I'm in. If we sell retention.com, I'll probably do it differently. But Monday, absolutely brutal all day internal meetings, one-on-ones with the executive team who are running retention.com, group meetings about retention.com, RB2B, LinkedIn, video effort, like whatever. Tuesdays, content day. So our weekly event is that day. I try if I can to get other people's podcast schedule in that day. I have like the talking head session recording, and then the girl who's like making this ongoing docu-series. Uh, I have her. I'm gonna try to go after YouTube next year, so like that'll be a part of this. We're adding on this whole other motion to RB2B where it's like a paid community for the free
Mm.
users. So it's like a path to monetization for them that I think they'll increase affinity. So like one of the paid plans is like for $3,000 a year, you can talk to me, Santosh, Diana, my CTO, Pete, Rob, whatever, one-to-many call once a week. Ask us any questions you want. And if we run out of time, we'll answer them in 24 hours. And like a once a month training. And I'm like selling courses that I spend a bunch of time making and all that shit. So that'll happen on Tuesday. Then Wednesday through Friday, it's fairly unstructured most of the time. Every once in a while, I go crazy and try to do like a podcast tour, so it gets all filled up with that.
Mm.
At some point, Wednesday through Friday, I'm writing some LinkedIn posts. I need to get I think for the amount of time I'm spending on it, my content distribution is not that efficient. Like I think we crush LinkedIn, but like it can be a lot better. Like I think we should be bigger on Twitter and have a YouTube motion. So trying to work that out. But yeah, that's that's basically it. I try to do internal on Monday, content like video recording on Tuesday. Uh, Wednesday through Friday is a combination of working on product stuff, other guest slots on podcasts, writing LinkedIn posts, things like that.
And do you work like the whole day? Are you like a workaholic type of guy or more chill or
So I have gone through stages of my career where I've not worked a lot at all. I
mm,
have so much going on right now, and I think there's so much low-hanging fruit that
you want to boost it?
it's 8 to 5 every day, and then I have a newborn. I had a kid a month ago, so I'm
Oh,
I'm home at
congrats.
5. And then I try to not work on the weekends except for maybe like during nap time.
Hmm.
But there's so much I'm trying to do, and I've taken a ton of time off this year. I've taken 50 days off this year, which is fucking crazy for somebody in my seat. So like the week before I take a week off and the week after I take a week off is a disaster. I'm looking forward to that not being the case. It's like it's just weird. It's like being a CEO of 2 companies in my situation and like taking 50 days off seems like it's the dream life, but it
Jack Dorsey
actually
kind of thing.
makes if it's once a month, it makes 2 out of the 4 weeks of that month miserable. It's
Hmm.
like the week before totally sucks, the week after totally sucks. The week during is fine. It's great to be on vacation. And then you have one normal week, right? So anyway, that's kind of it. But
Awesome.
like day to day, I'll sit down and make a checklist of stuff that I need to do that
Like
day.
on paper
Yeah,
or like,
just
yeah,
you know, notepad.
right.
I have a Trello that's got like this ongoing thing, and then I'll look at the Trello and I'll like make a list of the stuff that I want to knock out that day.
Amazing. Adam, man, thank you so much for the time. You've been a complete pleasure. Keep on the great work. I think, man, you're heading for that. I would say, you guys are gonna cross 12 million ARR in the next 1.5 years.
Boom. I agree with that.
That's what I
I agree
think.
with that.
And
If
retention
we
would
can,
probably, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, if we can make this product usable and somewhat sticky for these growth stage SaaS, 100% agree. If we cannot, I think it'll be hard. I think it'll just take longer. It's just not going to, it's all about churn always.
Yeah. Anyways, man, I trust you. You've got the playbooks, and you're an incredibly talented individual. You have and I bet you have a great talented team as well, which I don't know who they are, but I'm sure they're doing a good job behind the scenes.
Yeah, they're really good. They're really good.
Awesome,
Well,
man.
dude, thanks a lot.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
All right, take care, Omri.